And I think that basing your brand and basing your business off of destroying people is not great. There's really just doesn't seem to be like a solid human being behind that. And that is true evil. That is what true evil looks like.
Okay, so we're gonna have to address some of those things that were said. Hello and welcome back to the Inside Track. Today we're going to be talking about something that has been kind of stirring up the internet. There's just been some drama in the chat, and I'm here to defend myself, defend my name, clarify my motives, clarify my reasonings as to why I do what I do. And she said her side of the story, so it's only fair if I share mine. So before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes of what she said over on her podcast, I think it's important to really get a clear backstory as to what transpired, how it all happened, and kind of give a more detailed just story and hopes to make things a little bit more clear. A few months ago, a content creator over on TikTok that goes by the username Nina Kua had posted a video of her smacking her horse in the cross ties.
Stop. That goes for both legs.
And there was a lot of discussion and honestly uproar as to why that video was posted, why she felt it needed to react that way given her horse's behavior. And it was shocking to a lot of members in the community. And not only that, but she also had posted another video previous to this one surrounding her horse's inability to cross a bridge that apparently the horse had crossed many, many times before, and all of a sudden was throwing a big tantrum about it. And she also decided to smack him, spur him, try to get him across the bridge in kind of, dare I say, the worst way possible. And a lot of people had a lot of concerns towards her reasonings as to why she chose those actions were necessary, and also why she even posted about it and was proud about her actions. After that video surfaced, or those two videos surfaced, she was getting a lot of views, followers, just a lot of engagement on her platform, whether that be negative or positive. I can only imagine it was mostly negative. And because of that, I can only assume that Kelly over on KBMediaEquine decided to bring her onto her podcast. I think a lot of people were assuming that Kelly was going to talk about the incidents that transpired over on Nina's platform. And when people didn't see that from Kelly, and they didn't see that conversation transpire, or even any topics on horse welfare, I think a lot of people were honestly disappointed. Now, it's since been disclosed that Kelly had plans to ask Nina about everything that transpired over on her platform, those videos that caused a lot of uproar and a lot of conversation. However, Nina declined to answer any questions related to those topics. After all of that, a few days ago, Cellardor Farm, who also goes by Kelly, that's going to be a little bit confusing, so I apologize, she posted a video kind of calling attention to the fact that this still is an issue.
I was making a video and this happened.
What are you doing?
And I did nothing.
And I don't think that her objective was to necessarily dramatize the situation further or necessarily put Nina down in any way. The reality of the situation is too many equestrians still find it necessary and still find it completely valid and okay to hit their horses when their horses are just trying to communicate to their handlers, their riders, their owners. After that video was posted, Kelly from KBMediaEquine had commented this comment. After she made that comment, I then went on to make a video about the comment, responding to the comment, and I will be the first to admit that my video, I'll put it here.
This happened. And I did nothing.
Stop.
It was a little immature. It was very Gen Z coded. It had a viral audio mixed with elevator music and some immature memes, if you will. However, at the core of it all, at the core of the video, the message was sincere. The message was not personal. It was not a personal attack on Kelly or anyone. It was just the idea that this situation is still not resolved. It still hasn't been talked about to a full extent. And accountability has yet to be taken. And a lot of people don't understand what accountability means. Accountability means that you admit to doing something that wasn't right and then learning how to do better. A lot of people do not do that second step. After I made my video, there were a lot of comments that transpired over on Kelly from Cellardor Farms video and my video in the comment section as well. And there were a few comments that just made me a little bit uncomfortable and wary of Kelly from KBMediaEquine, and I felt just a little bit uncomfortable. So I decided to block her. When it comes to a certain point that I start to feel uncomfortable and, dare I say, attacked, I have every right to protect my peace just as you do. And my intention was not to silence you. My intention was not to delete any comments. Unfortunately, once you block someone, those comments end up disappearing. That's how the platform works. After I blocked her, she then went on to make a YouTube video, a podcast, if you will, over on her YouTube channel. You guys can go check it out. You guys can watch it in full. She spends the first half of it kind of giving her backstory and giving her personal experience within her own community, like personal community in the Georgia area, and how that's affected her in terms of how this industry can be so toxic and unfair. It was hard to watch Kelly cry like that, because I think we can all agree that this industry has really difficult moments. But to that, I say, this is going to be to Kelly and to anyone struggling with that sort of situation where you're stuck in a toxic environment, have the ability to shut people out when they no longer serve you. Pull a Leo Skeppy and tell them to fuck off. If they are no longer being kind to you, they can be direct and be honest with you, but if they are not doing it in an honest and kind way with integrity, that says a lot more about them than it does you. And because of that, you do not owe them any more of your energy, any more of your kindness, any more of your livelihood. You can share your story if you want to. You can do what you will with the situation, but you do not and should not feel it necessary to protect their peace and put their peace over yours. Put your foot down. It's time to stand up for Kelly. After the first half of the video, and talking about her experience, she then goes on to talk about this situation between me and her. So I thought we'd take a little bit of a look at her video and react to what had been said and what had been transpired, and just basically give my 2 cents and hopefully defend myself.
The thing that I had the issue with was that this other girl, Anna, decided that she was going to make an entire video about me and really made it something that it wasn't. So, because it was her narrative, right? Like, she created her own narrative as to what the storyline was.
I did not create my own narrative. I reacted to a series of events, series of factual events, and made a statement.
And I would love to sit you down and know, like, what your motives are and, like, what your perspective is. Like, that's probably the one thing I want to know the most is, like, what your perspective is, because I'm not seeing it.
My motives are very simple. My motives are to advocate and to educate. There are a lot of instances online and in person that deserves to be talked about, both at the low level and the high level. There are hundreds, thousands, millions of different topics that need to be discussed in order for our industry to move in a progressive and positive way. Just because I am talking about negative experiences, it doesn't mean that I'm a negative person or trying to bring more negativity into the space. In order for us to move in a direction that involves less toxicity and more positivity and more advocacy towards horse welfare, we need to talk about negative topics. We need to talk about hard topics. And if we don't, we will remain stagnant. That's a problem.
It's funny because no one's really seeming to talk about, like, the real issues that are going on in the sport. There's real shit happening, y'all. Like, there's real things that are going on that really matter.
I feel like if you don't think that I talk about things that matter, I feel like you gravely have misunderstood the complexity that my platform brings. I talk about cheating in the horse show industry, how people choose to use drugging in order to cheat in the horse show industry. I talk about body image issues as a rider and how we face the complex ins and outs of how to find confidence in the saddle and in you as a person. I talk about horse abuse. I talk about horse welfare advocacy in terms of horse nutrition, horse freedom, turning your horses out, making sure that they live in a space that actually values them as a species instead of values us and our comfortabilities.
Like, it just seems like we're going after people that are just a little bit easier targets and a little less scary, and which is fair. I understand why you're doing that. I don't condone it.
To allude to this idea that I'm only going after smaller people in the industry is extremely wrong. Not only is it extremely wrong, but it's pretty damaging as well. I talk about a vast number of complex different issues on my platform and in my content at the low levels and the high levels and everything in between. But if you're wondering why it's important to talk about the small people just like it's important to talk about the big people in the industry, it's because when we talk about these smaller people in the industries and we bring light to their misunderstandings, their mistakes, and their flaws, it can be a much more relatable point of view and a hell of a lot easier for people to absorb that information and not dismiss it as, well, they know what they're doing. They're pros in competing at the Olympic level. Maybe that's just what it takes to get to the top. The more we shine a light on everyone and discussing people's experiences in every corner of the industry, the more we're able to actually create change.
But the way that they do it is so terrible. Basing your brand and basing your business off of destroying people is not great.
You're talking about basing your brand off of destroying people's lives? Look at Dressage Hub. She has done an excellent job at wishing harm on other people and just bullying to bully. Not actually advocate for education. She does do a great job at pointing out the bad at the top level of our sport. But when it comes to knowing how to do better, she assumes that you already know how to do that. That's a problem because clearly not a lot of people do. That's the difference between her content and mine. If you strongly believe that I'm basing my brand off of destroying people's life, which by the way, I've never wished that onto anyone, You are extremely misunderstanding the not only value of my content, but what I'm actually saying in my content. People are entitled and should be pushed to share their thoughts, their opinions, and their experiences, so that way we can have an open discussion on what is wrong, what we can do better, and how to fix it. I have said this many of times, but if anyone has ever made a mistake, and that's everyone at this point, if anyone has ever made a mistake in this industry, I will always push them to better educate themselves instead of ripping away any opportunity at allowing them to do so.
I think that there's a special kind of person that can do that and like go to bed at night and feel good about it.
You know, you say that you wonder how I go to bed at night and sleep soundly at night after destroying people's lives on the internet. I wonder the same about horse abusers, you know? Like, teach their own, man. Teach their own.
You know, there's really just doesn't seem to be like a solid like human being behind that.
Again, I also wonder how horse abusers are solid human beings, but I digress.
You know, you could start a charity, you could start a podcast, you could travel and, you know, go to slaughterhouses, you could make awareness about, you know, all of these things that would be so positive.
You know, those recommendations aren't bad. They're not bad, but just because there's more things to do doesn't mean that my voice has any less value. And I'm not saying that I won't ever talk about slaughterhouses or I won't ever start a charity, but who's talking about challenging the norm of our industry? Who's talking about the faults of our industry and how we normalize horrible situations? That's why me and others are here. That's why me and others share our content and speak on the things we do, because those things matter. And the fact that you think that that doesn't, or the fact that you think that our voice and our message has any less value in comparison to slaughterhouses or charities, I'm really disappointed by that. I really am.
And you know what? I also think that a comment that really made me mad was that, like, oh, and I said that I was having a kumbaya moment. Like a kumbaya moment. No, girl, like, this is just who I am.
We can't brush aside things that are wrong in an effort to pretend like everyone eats rainbows and poops butterflies. We cannot dismiss these people and these situations and these instances in which people feel the need to raise a hand at their horse when it's not needed and not necessary. But we must take accountability for those instances, and we must learn how to do better in the future. Only then can we have a kumbaya moment. That's the only message that I was trying to portray. I was not trying to degrade your effort and trying to remain positive. I think that's great. However, I still strongly believe that in an effort to create positive change, we still have to address the negative issues at hand.
It's not worth it. Like, we could do so much cooler stuff and like band together and do fun things.
The thing is that we are banding together. The core of this movement and what I share in my content is to make people aware that if they've experienced or are in a situation that is maybe damaging to them and their horse, that it is okay to say no, and it is okay to speak up and advocate for their horse. But the most important thing that I hope comes across in my content, and if it doesn't, then hear it from me here, if you have experienced any sort of damaging or toxic environment that is questioning your horse's worth, their care, their happiness, if you're on the fence about whether your horse is actually happy, you can change. And better than that, I will be your cheerleader in advocating for your change and bettering your horse's life. And how do I know that people are capable of change? Because I'm living proof of it, baby. Through education and listening to other people's content is what changed my opinion.
Like, I'll never, ever in the process of telling somebody how I feel, tear someone else down. It's just not gonna happen. You know, I find this last point of yours a little bit contradictory. You say that
in the process of telling someone how you feel, you would never bring them down in the process. Yet here you have alluded to the idea that I am a bad person and that I don't sleep well at night because I'm a bad person, and dare I say, evil, because you have lumped me together with the people that did you wrong in your own community. If you feel that way, I am sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry if you felt attacked by me in any way. I really do. That wasn't my goal. However, if you feel uncomfortable with my content and uncomfortable with the topics that I discuss, I think that maybe you should dive into that and ask yourself why. All in all, I think I've said everything that I need to say on this topic and on this situation. I am sorry if it's a little bit confusing. Looking back on this video and just everything that I've said on this video, I can tell that it's going to be a ham and a half to edit. So if you're at all confused by what I've said or the statements I've made, feel free to leave a comment down below and I will do my best to answer them. With all that being said, if you guys did like this video, please feel free to give it a like, comment, and subscribe. I thoroughly enjoyed sitting here and talking with you guys, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.